UFC Hot Takes every single Friday. You are going to get one. I know this is Saturday. I get it. I posted it late. You know what I mean? We're going to go do this every single Friday. It's going to be a new series I'm going to have on my channel where you guys post your UFC Hot Takes, whether it's going to be for the UFC card that week or it could be any UFC Hot Take. You're going to see that in this video every single Friday. And about every single Tuesday, I'll post Sunday or Tuesday. I'll post a video on TikTok to where you guys can comment under and post your hot takes on. I'm MMA DBM or at MMA_DBM on TikTok. Make sure you go follow me there. Discord link is in the bio. A bunch of stuff you can go ahead and get on through my content. But yeah, we're gonna go through your guys' UFC hot takes on TikTok. I screenshot the ones I believe should be on the video, it's honestly just mainly random selection to be honest. It's gonna be a very, very bad looking PowerPoint. It's just a white background every single time. I know it's gonna look a little boring. I just woke up. I'm doing this on Saturday morning. This is gonna be a Friday. This is gonna be a Friday series every single Friday. But I kind of botched it. You know what I mean? So we're gonna go on from there. The first hot take I've had is Volk dominates Diego with wrestling. This is tailored to UFC 314, which is tonight. Volkanovski dominating Diego Lopez with wrestling is a little bit of a shakiness one with me. I think he's a much better wrestler by miles. I don't even think it's a comparable thing. I don't think Diego Lopez has any double leg or single leg entry to where he can go ahead and take Volkanovski down and get the jiu-jitsu game that he has. Diego Lopez is this jiu-jitsu player that comes out of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu background where these guys don't necessarily know how to wrestle and get it to the game that they want to play, which makes a lot of these guys who can do that a lot better. For example, Sean Brady, Pat Sabatini last week, as you saw against Joanderson Brito, guys who are elite level Brazilian jiu-jitsu players that know how to wrestle, that know how to get top control, that know how to pass the guard from there, and not just getting it on, not being on the mat, but getting it to the mat, both in the open mat and against the cage. And that's what Pat Sabatini did against Joanderson Brito. Anyways, I think Volkanovski can take Diego Lopez down. Does he really want to take Diego Lopez down early? I'm not certain. I mean, you're going to put yourself in a lot of situations. A lot of people think Volkanovski is unsubmittable. But if Ortega's getting you in those positions, Diego Lopez certainly will get you in those positions. And on top of that, I think Diego Lopez goes for limbs a lot more often than Ortega does. And Volkanovski can defend chokes. But how long can you defend a limb from being broken, right? I think Lopez has really good jiu-jitsu overall. Maybe later in the rounds, Volkanovski can start wrestling and completely dominate this fight. As it gets later, where Diego Lopez is a little bit more gas and Volkanovski's cardio takes over. That is if Volkanovski survives the first couple rounds, where it's just, is his chin still there? That's the main concern. If it is, he's going to walk Diego like a dog. If it isn't, you know what's going to happen. So yeah, I don't completely disagree with this take, as long as it's later in the fight. Peter Yan beats Umar Nurmagomedov, and it's not very close. Better cardio, better boxing, better chin. He's going to be on the front foot, in my opinion. He's going to be better on the back foot. I absolutely agree with that. You're not using some of the arguments I typically use. I'm out of water. That's fantastic. Using some of the arguments I usually use when it comes to breaking down a fight is how can the fighter look in any single scenario in which this fight is going. If this is in the grappling, how is Yan going to look? I think Jan's going to be fine in the grappling in this, where he's going to be able to defend the takedowns. He's going to be able to scramble. I think he can get takedowns of his own. However, I do think Umar will be the better overall grappler, in my opinion. I do think people watching him against Merab kind of think otherwise, but he took Merab down. So that's a very big note that he's taking Merab down. Yan took Merab down as well with a trip. So that's a very interesting fight. I think it's, in my opinion, the most stylistically beautiful fight you'll watch in UFC history. And it's going to be so fun. I'm saying history because I'm being dead serious about it. There is no cleaner technical fighter, in my opinion. It's more entertaining, more fluid, more enjoyable to watch than Peter Yan. I mean, even in his worst fight in the UFC, it was against Merab on a torn ACL, where his eye got headbutt shot in round 1. And he defended 38 takedowns out of 49 attempts in a small cage, each takedown resulting in less than a minute of control time. This guy is one of the best, if not the best, defensive grapplers in the UFC, and it is not close. Yan is very entertaining to watch, so I do think he's a better boxer. I do think he has a better chin, better cardio. The longer the fight goes, the harder Jan's going to go. Everybody knows that. It's the downloading data concept in the first round and all that. And I do think he's better on the back foot. I do think Umar moving backwards is nowhere near as good as Yan moving backwards, nowhere near as dangerous. But I just, it's hard for me to see these grappling exchanges and Umar not having a lot of success in them. But I'm going to push the Yan agenda. I'm always going to push the Yan agenda. I'm going to agree with it fully. I think Yan beats the life out of Umar, and I think Umar's ducking him completely. I think Umar's ducking him in the summer. I'm going to run with that. but without like all jokes aside, I do think Umar is basically the toughest fight for Jan. But saying it's not very close is going to be an interesting take. I think Umar's a lot better than people giving him credit for after that Murat performance. I mean, some people thought Umar won that fight. I don't know what you were watching, but yeah. Jan, I think, wins. I think it'll be a very fun, competitive fight and one of the best fights we've seen, technically speaking, in UFC history. Okay, so two comments. We're basically saying the same thing. I kind of want to bring them all together. Topuria will become the GOAT, as well as Ilia Topuria will finish his career undefeated and be recognized as the GOAT of the sport. If he knocks out Islam Makhachev, who do you reckon beats him at 155? Genuinely, if he knocks out Islam Makhachev, who beats him at 155? So he knocks out the two greatest featherweights of all time in UFC history. He then proceeds. If you say Jose Aldo is a greater featherweight of all time in the UFC, he lost to both Volkanovski and Max Holloway. Max Holloway finished him twice. Not only that, it's not like Max Holloway was knocking him out cold. It was TKOs. He was overwhelming Jose Aldo. And this was 30-year-old Jose Aldo. This isn't like 35, 40-year-old Jose Aldo. This is 30-year-old Jose Aldo fighting top-level competition, and Holloway's finishing him. Max Holloway, not necessarily known as the most prolific finisher in the UFC. Yeah. So, he knocks out the two greatest featherweights of all time back-to-back. If Volkanovski beats Diego Lopez right now, how much better does Ilia Topuria look? That's what a lot of people don't necessarily say anything about. They say Volkanovski's washed, his chin is completely cooked. If Volkanovski wins this fight against Diego Lopez, what does that make Ilia Topuria look like? You see what I'm saying? If Ilia Topuria finishes his career undefeated, as this guy says, how do you not see him becoming one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, unless he retires ridiculously early like Khabib did? If he knocks out Islam Makhachev, if he beats Arman Tsarukyan right after that, or Charles Oliveira, whoever it is that they're going to put in front of him, I don't really see many prospects that are going to give Topuria much of a hard time, other than Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan. I really don't. Other than maybe like Joel Alvarez would be a headache for Topuria, quite literally the biggest headache. And I think the UFC would be dying to make Paddy versus Topuria just so they could put on a title fight. If Paddy beats Michael Chandler and then they're going to beg to see what they could do with him after, I think it'd be hilarious. I mean, Topuria would knock Paddy into a completely different stratosphere. I think it's possible. I think it's possible he could become the greatest of all time. We're just so far away from that conversation right now. But I can understand the sentiment because he did knock out the two greatest featherweights of all time, and he's about to fight for the title, and he's 28 years old. He just turned 28 years old, won the title, and knocked them both out at 27 years old. So that's a very big note that people need to understand. Topuria is so young and just entering his physical prime, statistically speaking, by age. So we're gonna have a very interesting take on this one when it gets. I mean, 2 years from now, we can be having some very uncomfortable conversations about Ilia Topuria. Look at the conversation we're having about Dricus du Plessis and his all-time rankings in middleweight after his resume in middleweight right now and who he's beaten and how he's finished them. We're getting there. We're getting there with Topuria. If he knocks out Makhachev cold, I mean, come on. Especially if he beats him twice. I mean, what are we doing? All right, Dustin Poirier is a worst stylistic matchup for Topuria. We're breaking down right back into this. Topuria conversation. He can match the boxing, if not be better. I think that's a delusional take. Let me read the take first. And it's also a very good grappler. Where Ilia has yet to prove how good of a grappler he is. I believe Poirier wins that fight. I'm also aware that Ilia is based in jiu-jitsu and Greco-Roman wrestling. So the one grappler Topuria has faced so far in the UFC is Bryce Mitchell, and he ragdolled him and submitted him. I mean, let's just start with that. I mean, the only grappling test we've had with Topuria is the one guy that has not been out-grappled throughout his entire UFC career in Bryce Mitchell. Now, a lot of people are going to say Bryce Mitchell sucks. He got knocked out by Emmett, so the sentiment on Bryce Mitchell is all of a sudden that he's a complete bum because people just lie to themselves. And watch this Gene Silva fight and tell me that Bryce Mitchell's a bum. Anyways, yeah, I do think the one grappler he's fought, he's he's beaten them. The grappling is night and day difference between Topuria and Dustin Poirier. I think this is the funniest thing I've read in here. Maybe even funnier than the boxing thing because Topuria is a much better boxer than Dustin Poirier, both defensively and offensively. He's much more explosive, much more linear with his strikes. His timing is a lot better overall. He's the harder hitter between Poirier and between him and Poirier. If you don't believe in that, ask Max Holloway. Max Holloway fought Dustin Poirier twice, never got knocked out against him. What did Max Holloway do against Ilia Topuria? The guy woke up in the hospital next to a nurse. So yeah, I think Ilia Topuria is the much better boxer, much more explosive, better entries, more explosive right now, especially more opposed to even back then. Even back then, I think Topuria versus Prime Poirier, I do think it's a closer boxing match. I also do think Topuria is levels above him. And a lot of people are going to completely disagree with that because you just don't know how good Ilia Topuria is. It's as simple as that. I mean, you've watched him against Volkanovski and Max Holloway, and everybody's making every single excuse possible to make for Ilya Topuria winning those fights, saying Volkanovski was washed and old, saying Max Holloway was washed and old at 32 years old, saying Max Holloway couldn't make the weight. So after Max Holloway knocks out Justin Gaethje, he's washed, right? Then he can't make the weight at 32 years old. He can't make featherweight after making it the fight prior. We just lie. We lie. People lie about things for no reason. Don't get why. It is what it is. We move forward. Yeah, I don't see how Dustin Poirier, especially right now, could challenge Topuria whatsoever. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a very, very fun fight. I think it's going to end up being a pretty brutal knockout loss for Dustin Poirier. I mean, he get knocked out by Justin Gaethje, although a head kick, I understand that, but Topuria hits like a truck. It's as simple as that. You don't see people fold the same way that they fold against Ilya Topuria. I mean, again, Max Holloway, Volkanovski, do we really need to go further in this? I don't know how I put that in twice. Bryce Mitchell's a big prospect who has a good chance at the title. Aljo will become featherweight champ too. I like Bryce Mitchell. I think he's a fun fighter. I think he's a good fighter. I think there are also some crazy takes on this. This is one of them. A chance at the title is a pretty funny one. I mean, who's he going to beat? He's going to beat Movsar Evloev? No. Is he going to beat Diego Lopez? Absolutely not. Is he going to beat Alexander Volkanovski? Any version of him? Definitely not. I mean, he's not a title challenger. He's never been a title challenger. He's never been a guy who could ever fight for the title. The delusion that people had were saying Bryce Mitchell could be a champion back in the day, like when he was undefeated going into the Topuria fight, like crazy talk. I don't see how anything like this makes any sense. Now, can Aljamain Sterling become featherweight champ? I think Aljamain Sterling is a lot more underrated right now in featherweight than people are giving him credit for. I think he could be, I think he could be a top 3 featherweight. I genuinely think he'd be a top 3 featherweight. I think Aljamain Sterling would smoke Yair Rodriguez right now. I think Aljamain Sterling would have a good fight against Patricio Pitbull. I think he arguably could have beaten Movsar Evloev, according to a lot of people here. So, could he be champ? I don't know. The Diego Lopez fight, in my opinion, would be the most entertaining fight. Him and Diego Lopez. I mean, imagine Aljamain Sterling and Diego Lopez on the mat. How good of a grappling exchange would that be? If you thought him and Evloev was a good one, imagine him and Lopez. Because Lopez isn't a control grappler. He's actually going to be throwing up submissions. It's going to be a very, very entertaining scrambling watch between him and Diego Lopez if Aljo ever fought him. But Aljo is getting a little bit older. I don't think he could become champ anymore. I think Volkanovski is also like a horrible fight for Aljamain. Yeah, I'd be surprised if Aljo can become champ at featherweight nowadays. But stylistic, you give him 2-3 years a little younger. I mean, against these guys that he's fighting, he has the ability to do so. I just can't see it right now. Diego Lopez is the worst fighter to fight for a belt in the last 5 years. We just watched Stipe Miocic at 42 years old fight for a title, and you're telling me Juliana Pena is fighting for a title. Raquel Pennington fought Juliana Pena for a title. Juliana Pena is worse than Raquel Pennington. I mean, we have seen way worse fighters fight. If you want to just talk men's divisions in general, is Khalil Rountree? No, I don't know if Khalil Rountree could be worse than Diego Lopez. You never know. No, I wouldn't say that. I don't know. I mean, that's an arguable one, right? Yeah, Israel Adesanya, he fought for one. I'm messing. I don't know. There are a bunch of situations where you could kind of push an argument for this, and if you want to say Stipe Miocic is the greatest heavyweight of all time, sure, but like, do you really want to see Diego Lopez less than you want to see Stipe Miocic right now? Is he the worst fighter to Stipe Miocic at 42 years old? Hell, John Jones at 38 years old. Do you think John Jones at 38 years old is better than Diego Lopez? I don't know. I'm trying to push an anti-John Jones agenda here. Anyways, I don't know. I disagree with this. I mean, Stipe Miocic, if you want to include the women's fights, like Juliana Pena has a belt in her hands right now. So, I completely disagree with that. Tatiana Suarez, I mean, do I need to really say much more? I mean, yeah, in men's, probably up there to fight for a title in the last 5 years. I'm not really thinking too deeply in who else has fought for one. If I thought at lightweight, has anybody undeserving fight for? I mean, Renato Moicano just fought for a title. That's definitely something to note. Featherweight, nobody else. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not too far off. It's definitely not the worst fighter to fight for a belt in the last 5 years, though. I'm definitely missing a couple, so let me know who I'm missing. Joe Rogan could have been a threat at lightweight because of his kicks. I don't even want to cover this too much. I think this is just obscene. Like, I don't know how you can come to this conclusion ever. I think Joe Rogan is nowhere near a threat at lightweight, nowhere near a threat in the UFC period. Just because he can kick on a heavy bag doesn't mean he can land another person in an MMA fight where the guy's going to try to shoot takedowns on him. How do you know what Joe Rogan's chin is? His boxing, we haven't seen anything. Like, do I really need to break down the logistics of Joe Rogan's game in his prime at, like, what? When he was throwing kicks at 40 years old, 45 years old? Like, no, not even close. And why lightweight? Usman is the most overrated title reign. Colby Jorge 4 times. Gilbert 1 time good win. He made Colby look competent on the feet, which is not. Well, The latter part is interesting. To say Colby isn't competent on the feet, I can understand that. But in Colby's prime, I mean, like, it's not that he was necessarily competent on the feet. It was just more so that he threw a ridiculous amount of volume. Like against Robbie Lawler, he threw like over 500 strikes. Like that's the one thing that separated Colby. That you could at least put out there is like his cardio was ridiculous and his volume was absolutely ridiculous. We saw it in Max Holloway with the amount of volume Holloway throws, but upper weight classes, you don't really see it as much, and Colby was bringing it over there. So I thought the first Colby fight was pretty fun, pretty competitive overall. I mean, the later it got, the worse it got for Colby. I think in the second fight, he wasn't horrible either. Obviously now Colby's sentiment doesn't look as good, but back then Colby was legit. I think Kamaru Usman's resume is a little bit overrated. I was a little concerned at the time when they were starting to say he was the greatest welterweight of all time. I think that was one of the funniest things in the world that he was approaching George St. Pierre, that these conversations were even being entertained whatsoever. I think it was absolutely hilarious. Yeah, no, I mean, 4 of your 5 title defenses being against Colby and George Masvidal. I mean, George Masvidal is the biggest journeyman in UFC history. I mean, in what world are you going to note that as like an elite win, right? Again, like every champion has pretty bad wins. Every champion has wins against some pretty bad level competition. George St. Pierre, Anderson Silva, John Jones. Like, they're going to fight pretty bum fighters. It is what it is. But those guys have longevity against really bad fighters. These guys don't. And understandably so, like, the level of competition is getting a lot better. Like, look at welterweight right now. Welterweight right now, you have Sean Brady, you have Carlos Pratas, you have Ian Gary, you have, stylistic nightmares like MVP at times. Who else you got? Shafkat Rakhmonov. Like, you have a ridiculous amount. Even Buckley is a headache to deal with, which I think we're going to be talking about Buckley later in this video, but and Bilal Muhammad's champion right now. So, like, there are a lot of stylistic nightmares in welterweight and a lot of different styles, a lot of great young up-and-coming prospects who are legit. Michael Morales even, that can give you a headache in these fights. And if you have a very long title reign in welterweight now, it's a whole different conversation. I mean, somebody can become an established welterweight greatest of all time right now if they start winning out in welterweight and they hold that division. Hold that division, you can become an all-time great. Simple as that. Usman, I don't think was anywhere near that. I think it was hilarious. I think he was just one of the biggest stars in UFC at the time. Had some good finishes, had some big power, and the guy's a great wrestler. Khamzat Chimaev makes DDP look easy. I was back and forth in this fight, and it's as simple as this: do you think Khamzat's gonna win? If yes, then you think he's gonna make DDP look easy. If you don't think Khamzat's gonna win, you think DDP's gonna make him look easy, or DDP's gonna survive the first round or so and then beat the life out of Chimaev after that. DDP's cardio has just completely transformed itself after the nose surgery. I guess he was completely right about that, which is hilarious. The guy looks night and day different in 5-round fights compared to what he looked like back then. I mean, and he was gassing out in the first round, or round and a half against Derek Brunson. I mean, quite literally sloppy, out cold, exhausted against Derek Brunson. Against Brad Tavares, looked like a zombie. Like, he looked horrible back then, and now his cardio is a completely different level compared to Chimaev, especially, of all people. I mean, Chimaev cannot keep himself out of like the first 2 rounds. Like, even the latter end of the second round, he usually slows down a lot more often. I mean, I don't know what's happened with this guy's health. His cardio has been taking a complete tank. His activity is taking a complete tank. Like, do I think Chimaev wins? Yeah, I do think, because we saw DDP on bottom against much worse fighters. I mean, Robert Whittaker took him down even after the nose surgery, right? But then we haven't seen him face another predominant grappler in the UFC. When we did, it was Derek Brunson, and yes, it was a little bit before, and DDP has gotten a lot better since then, notably so. I even talked about that in a TikTok and even TikTok lives where I haven't seen a champion improve that much in a title fight as I've seen DDP improve going into the second Strickland fight. Yeah, I'd be surprised if Chimaev doesn't get on top of him and just rain down and get some submissions. I don't think DDP's submission defense is as good as Usman's. I think Kamaru Usman's submission defense is like ridiculously elite. And he smothered one of the best anti-grapplers in UFC history in Robert Whittaker like it was nothing. So, yeah, I'd be surprised if Khamzat can't get DDP down. It'd be a banger fight if he doesn't, but, you know. Hot take, Jones will probably beat Tom Aspinall at the very least. It's a closer fight and Tom's toughest test. Is it Tom's toughest test? Yes, absolutely. Is it John's toughest test? And God knows how long, absolutely as well. He couldn't take down Dominic Reyes at 205. What's he going to do with Tom Aspinall at 265? When Tom Aspinall is the quicker guy, when he's much more explosive, when he's much younger, he's a much harder hitter. I mean, Tom Aspinall is the hardest hitter John Jones has faced since when, right? Like, it's been a long time since Jones has fought a finisher like Tom Aspinall, let alone it being at 265 pounds, where John hasn't really been hit at heavyweight, has he? Have we really seen his chin 60 pounds up a weight class? You know what I mean? At 38 years old, where he looks slower than ever on the feet. I mean, horrible on the feet. Fighting a geriatric Stipe, and Stipe was landing at will on him. Like, Yeah, I think it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious to think John Jones will beat Tom Aspinall. I don't think John is explosive enough right now to get an open mat takedown on Aspinall unless Aspinall overextends and then John takes in from the body lock, underhooks, and go from there. I don't think John is explosive enough to shoot a double leg or a single leg on Aspinall. I also don't think Aspinall will be moving back to the cage and using his quote-unquote footwork to get to the back and get himself in a bad situation where he's behind that black line in the octagon and John Jones shoots the takedown against the cage, chains it, gets it from there. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Aspinall is going to be able to stand in the middle, maintain his distance properly without letting Jones walk him to the back of the cage. And even if it is anywhere near the cage, I think Aspinall moves pretty well to avoid that situation. And he cracks like a truck. I think he's going to knock John Jones out cold. Buckley's welterweight resume is severely overhyped. Colby 2-3 last 5, 41-year-old Wonder Boy, and he was losing that Wonder Boy fight, by the way. If you guys don't remember, Buckley was losing that Wonder Boy fight. Vicente Luque, 2-3 in last 5. Morono's Morono and Fialho. So when you go Morono and back, that's like whatever. Yes, he's finishing these guys, but any legit prospect should be finishing these guys. Any like ridiculously legit prospect should be, yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of prospects just go into decisions and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it is impressive that he is finishing them. Got a finish on Colby, which, I mean, who really has had a legitimate finish on Colby? I was a doctor stoppage, so it was how legitimate was it? You know what I mean? Yeah, I relatively agree. I do think he is improving, though, and he is still young, and that's what's different about welterweight nowadays is the people who are coming up and right next to the title are all young. I mean, I think they're almost all sub 30, if I'm not wrong. Maybe Shavkat might be 30 or something like that, and Carlos Prates is just over 30. But yeah, like this is one of the most exciting divisions in the UFC right now, and a lot of people are just completely neglecting it. So I think Buckley is his resume might be overhyped, but I don't think he is overhyped. I think he's a headache of a fight for a lot of grapplers. I think he's an explosive fight and a headache for a lot of strikers too. I mean, the guy is a headache of a fight. Do you really want to fight Buckley and have some fun here, right? Like, you're going to take some damage against Buckley. If not, you're going to have to try to grapple him. And if you can grapple him and get on top of him, we haven't really seen that much in the UFC. So, granted, we haven't really seen him face like an elite level grappler. So we haven't seen him face a Shavkat, a Sean Brady or something like that, or even a Bilal who's a wrestler and not much of a grappler, right? So we can see some interesting things with Buckley towards the top of the welterweight division. But I do think there are some stylistic matchups for him that favor him at welterweight. So although his resume is overhyped, I mean, I think he's legit. I genuinely think he's legit. Thank you guys all for watching the video. Every single Friday we'll be doing a hot takes video. Maybe a little bit of a better background. I don't feel like editing today, so I'm just going to put this out there. It'll be every single Friday, not Saturday like today. Make sure you guys join my Discord. Link is in my bio on my TikTok. When you follow my TikTok, Discord is very fun. Overall, over 100 and some people in there right now. I go live almost every single day, and I will be doing a watch-along stream for UFC 314. Make sure you follow me on TikTok. I will be live on TikTok starting the Julian Rosa versus Darren Elkins fight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 a.m. UK time, and 5 p.m. PST. Thank you guys all for watching. Subscribe. And follow my TikTok. Peace out. Forgot to hide on the video. That's how you end the video. There we go. See ya.